Struggling single mom falls asleep on a CEO's shoulder on a bus, but wakes up shocked when he... Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Our story begins with a woman named Jessica, a single mother facing life's overwhelming challenges. She boards a bus, tired from the endless struggles that have filled her days. It's a rainy evening, the kind of weather that makes everything feel heavier. The bus is almost empty, save for a few passengers scattered around. As Jessica walks down the aisle, she notices a seat next to a well-dressed man. He's sitting quietly, engrossed in his phone, wearing a sharp suit that contrasts sharply with her worn-out jacket and tired eyes. She hesitates for a moment, but then, as if guided by some invisible force, she sits down next to him. The man doesn't seem to notice her at first, his attention consumed by whatever is on his screen. But as the bus rumbles along the road, Jessica's exhaustion catches up with her. Her head starts to nod, and before she can stop it, she falls asleep, her head resting lightly on the man's shoulder. The soft hum of the bus, the gentle rhythm of the wheels turning, and the warmth of his shoulder offer her a rare moment of peace, a respite from the endless cycle of worry and fatigue. She's unaware of the fact that the man beside her is someone who could change her life forever. Time passes, and with it, the bus ride continues. Suddenly, the man feels a slight shift, a soft pressure on his shoulder. He looks down to find a woman asleep beside him. A faint smile tugs at the corner of his lips. He's used to people avoiding him, to the distance others keep because of his position in life. But here, in this moment, with this stranger, it feels different. He's not sure why, but there's something comforting about the woman's presence. She's just a stranger, but in her vulnerability, in her exhaustion, he feels an unexpected connection. As the bus reaches her stop, the driver calls out, and Jessica stirs awake. Blinking against the light, she realizes her head is on someone's shoulder. Her cheeks flush with embarrassment as she quickly sits up, mumbling an apology. But the man just smiles gently, brushing off her apology. "It's okay," he says. "You looked like you needed the rest." Jessica nods, feeling awkward. She quickly gathers her things, standing to leave. But before she does, she glances at him once more. There's something about him, something familiar, though she's sure she's never met him before. She hurries off the bus, shaking the thoughts away. But little does she know, that moment will change everything for her. As Jessica stepped off the bus and walked toward her apartment, her mind kept drifting back to the moment she had fallen asleep on that man's shoulder. She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. It was just a bus ride, she reminded herself. Just an accident. Still, she couldn't help but feel something had shifted, something she couldn't quite explain. But life had a way of reminding her that she didn't have time for feelings, not when there was barely enough money for rent, and her son, Ethan, needed new shoes for school. As she entered her small, dimly lit apartment, the weight of her responsibilities hit her again. Her son was at the kitchen table, trying to finish his homework, but his face was drawn, and his pencil barely moved across the paper. Jessica could see the concern in his eyes. He was only 8, but he was smart, too smart for his age, and he knew they were struggling. "Mom, are we going to have enough for groceries this week?" Ethan asked, looking up from his book. Jessica gave him a weak smile and sat beside him. "We'll be okay, honey," she said, brushing a strand of hair out of his face. "I'm going to find something, don't worry. You focus on your homework, okay?" Ethan nodded, though he didn't look convinced. Jessica sat there for a moment, watching him. She could see the worry in his eyes, and it hurt her heart more than she could say. But what could she do? Her part-time job as a waitress barely covered the bills. There had to be something more, but she couldn't see the way out. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, Jessica sat on the couch, scrolling through job listings on her phone. It was the same thing every day, low-wage work, no benefits, no future. But then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi Jessica, this is Alex from earlier today on the bus. I hope you made it home safely." She stared at the screen for a moment, wondering if she was imagining things. Why would he reach out to her? I just wanted to say, it was nice talking to you, even if it was brief. I know it's a bit out of the blue, but I'd like to offer you a job. Nothing big, just something to get you started. Let me know if you're interested." Jessica felt her breath catch in her throat. A job offer? From a man she had only met on a bus? It didn't make sense. She hesitated, staring at the message, unsure of what to do. But the thought of a chance to change her life, to finally breathe a little easier, was too tempting to ignore. She typed a quick reply. "Thank you, but I'm not sure if I'm the right person for this. What kind of job is it?" Moments later, he replied. "It's a position at my company. We're looking for someone with strong work ethic, someone reliable. I've got a few openings. Don't worry, I can explain more if you're interested." Jessica sat back, trying to process it all. Was this a joke? Or was she being scammed? But something in the tone of his messages, the way he spoke about his company, made her think this could be real. She had nothing to lose. "Okay," she typed back. "I'm interested. Let's talk more." Alex responded almost instantly. "Great. How about we meet for coffee tomorrow? It'll give us a chance to chat and see if it's a good fit for both of us." Jessica agreed, setting a time to meet. The next day, she found herself at a small cafe, nervously stirring her coffee, wondering what this strange twist of fate might mean. As she waited, she couldn't help but think about how much her life had changed in such a short time. She had gone from struggling to make ends meet to suddenly having a chance at something more. Her hands trembled as she picked up her coffee cup, trying to steady herself. Just then, the door opened, and Alex walked in. He was exactly the same as she remembered, tall, handsome, with a calm demeanor that made him seem completely at ease. He walked over to her table with a friendly smile. "Jessica?" he asked. She nodded, her heart racing. "It's good to see you again," he said, taking a seat across from her. They exchanged small talk for a few minutes, but Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that this was all too good to be true. But Alex wasn't like the other people she'd met in her life. He didn't seem to care about her background or her struggles. There was a kindness in his eyes that she hadn't seen in a long time. "So, let's talk about the job," he said, diving into the conversation. "We need someone who's hardworking and passionate about helping others. We're expanding our outreach programs, and I think you'd be a great fit." As he spoke, Jessica felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. Maybe this was the break she had been waiting for. Maybe this was her chance to build a better life for Ethan. But before she could say anything, Alex leaned forward slightly. "And just so you know," he said, "I should have mentioned earlier, I'm the CEO of a company called Bright Futures. It's a non-profit focused on helping people like you." Jessica's eyes widened. "You're the CEO?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. Alex smiled. "Yes, I know it might sound a bit surprising, but I promise you, I'm just a guy who wants to help. This opportunity could change your life, if you're willing to take it." Jessica sat there, staring at Alex in disbelief, trying to process the information he had just shared. The CEO of a nonprofit? She had never imagined she'd be sitting across from someone like him, someone so powerful, yet so down to earth. She felt a mixture of awe and skepticism. Could this really be happening? Could she, a single mother working 2 jobs, actually be offered a chance to work for such an influential person? The uncertainty lingered in her mind, but she couldn't help feeling a flicker of hope. She took a deep breath and finally spoke. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is all so overwhelming. I've never had a job like that before. I don't even know if I'm qualified." Alex smiled gently, leaning forward, his expression kind and understanding. "Jessica, you don't need to worry about qualifications," he said. "What I'm looking for is someone with heart, someone who's willing to learn and work hard. We can teach you the rest. I believe you have what it takes." His words struck a chord deep within her. It wasn't about her resume or her past experience. It was about her potential, her drive. She had never been told that before. Sure, her family had always pushed her to do better, but it was always in terms of survival, never in terms of thriving. She could feel her walls slowly crumbling, piece by piece. "But what about Ethan?" she asked, her mind returning to her son. "I can't just leave him behind. I have to make sure he's taken care of." Alex nodded understandingly. his gaze softening. I get that, Jessica. Family always comes first. That's why I'm offering something flexible. This job would allow you to work remotely, from home, so you can still be there for Ethan while also building a future for both of you. Jessica's eyes widened in surprise. A flexible job, with the potential for growth? It seemed too good to be true. She had always dreamed of being able to provide a better life for Ethan, but she never thought it would come in the form of an opportunity like this. As if reading her thoughts, Alex continued. I know it's a lot to take in. I'm not asking for an answer right now. Think it over. Take your time. But I can tell you this much, Jessica. If you take this leap, I promise you, things will change. Your life will change, and so will Ethan's. For the first time in a long while, Jessica allowed herself to imagine a future beyond the struggles. She imagined a life where she didn't have to choose between paying rent and buying food. A life where she could give Ethan everything he deserved. I'll think about it, she said, her voice a little steadier now. I really appreciate this, more than you know, Alex smiled, standing up and offering her a firm handshake. Take all the time you need, he said, and when you're ready, let me know. I'll be here. As Jessica left the cafe, she felt a mix of emotions flooding her. She had 1,000 thoughts running through her mind. Could she really take a leap like this? Could she trust him, trust herself, enough to go for it? But as she walked back to her apartment, she realized that for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just thinking about surviving anymore. She was thinking about living, about giving her son a future, and that made all the difference. The next few days were filled with deep reflection. Jessica weighed the pros and cons, went over the logistics, and even talked to her best friend, Katie, about it. Katie was hesitant at first, but after hearing the details, she encouraged Jessica to go for it. You deserve this, Jess, she had said. You've worked so hard. This could be the break you've been waiting for. And with that, Jessica knew what she had to do. She sent Alex a message that night, telling him she was ready to take the job. Alex replied almost instantly, I'm so glad, Jessica. You won't regret this. Welcome to the team. The next few weeks passed by in a blur. Jessica began her new job, learning everything she could from the team at Bright Futures. The work was challenging, but it was fulfilling in a way she had never experienced before. She felt a sense of purpose, and with each new task, her confidence grew. She could feel herself changing, slowly but surely. She was becoming someone who didn't just survive, but thrived. As she looked at Ethan one evening, sitting at the kitchen table, working on his homework, she knew she had made the right decision. Her son's smile when he saw her coming home from work that day said it all. They were finally on the path to something better, something that would change their lives forever. As the weeks passed, Jessica settled into her new role at Bright Futures, and with each passing day, she felt more and more like a different person. The weight that had been pressing down on her for so long, the constant worry about making ends meet, slowly began to lift. She was still cautious, still waiting for the other shoe to drop, but the work felt right. She could feel the change in herself. She was no longer just surviving. She was building a future. The flexibility Alex had promised allowed her to balance her new responsibilities with her duties as a mother. She could work from home, set her own hours, and still be there for Ethan when he came home from school. It was a relief, a gift she never thought she'd have. Ethan noticed the change in her too. There was less tension in her voice, less frustration in her eyes. For the first time, she could help him with his homework without feeling like she was rushing through it, thinking about all the other things she had to do. One evening, as they sat together at the kitchen table, Ethan looked up at her with a grin. "Mom, you seem different," he said. "You look happier." Jessica's heart swelled with emotion at his words. She smiled softly and ruffled his hair. "I am, sweetie. I really am." And it was true. She had never felt this way before. But even as the days passed, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. She was grateful for the opportunity, but the more she got to know Alex and the team at Bright Futures, the more she realized that he wasn't just a boss to her. There was a part of her that couldn't ignore the connection they had. She found herself thinking about him more than she should. He was kind, generous, and genuine, and she admired him for the way he cared about his work and the people around him. He had created a space for her, a space where she felt like she truly belonged. But still, the fear of getting too close, of letting herself hope for something more, held her back. She didn't want to make the same mistakes again, didn't want to put her heart on the line. But Alex seemed to be different. He respected her, saw her for who she truly was, not just as a single mom struggling to make ends meet. He encouraged her, supported her, and made her feel like she was more than just a worker. She was starting to feel things she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years, and it both scared and thrilled her. One day, Alex called her into his office. It wasn't unusual. She had been working closely with him on a new initiative for the foundation, but there was something about the way he asked her to come in that made her heart skip a beat. As she walked into his office, Alex looked up from his desk and smiled warmly. "Hey, Jessica, how's everything going?" he asked, his voice steady but with a softness that made her feel at ease. "Good," she replied, sitting down across from him. "Really good, actually. I'm getting the hang of things." He nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm glad to hear that. You've been doing amazing work, Jessica. I've been impressed by how much you've taken on so quickly." His words made her heart swell with pride. She had worked hard, harder than she ever had before, and it felt good to know he noticed. "Thank you, Alex. It's been a huge change, but I'm loving it," she said. He leaned back in his chair, his expression serious yet warm. "There's something I've been wanting to talk to you about," he began. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. What was this about? Was it something to do with work? She had been so focused on her responsibilities, she hadn't even considered what it might mean for her future at the foundation. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Alex smiled again, but this time it seemed to have a deeper meaning. "I wanted to let you know that I've been thinking about how much you've contributed to this organization, Jessica," he said, his tone sincere. "You've become an integral part of this team, and I think you're ready for something more." Jessica furrowed her brow, unsure of what he meant. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex leaned forward slightly, his eyes soft but determined. "I want to offer you a full-time position," he said. "One with more responsibility, more influence, and a real future at Bright Futures." Jessica's heart raced. A full-time position? More responsibility? Was he serious? She had been doing well, but she hadn't expected something like this. It felt like a dream, like everything she had worked for was finally falling into place. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. She was speechless, overwhelmed by the possibility. Alex smiled, sensing her hesitation. "Take your time to think about it," he said, his voice gentle. "I just want you to know that I believe in you, Jessica. You have so much potential, and I want to help you reach it." Jessica stood up slowly, her mind racing. She had worked so hard to get here, and now it felt like everything was falling into place. This was her chance. She looked at Alex, meeting his gaze for a moment, before nodding. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'll think about it." As she walked out of his office, her mind was buzzing with possibilities. She had never imagined that her life could change so quickly, so completely. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had control over her future. She didn't know where it would lead, but she was ready to take the next step. After that meeting, Jessica couldn't stop thinking about the offer Alex had made. A full-time position, more responsibility, and a real future at Bright Futures. It was everything she had dreamed of, and yet, it also felt terrifying. She had spent so many years just trying to get by, never truly thinking about what came next, and now, suddenly, everything seemed to be changing in ways she couldn't control. That evening, after putting Ethan to bed, she sat at the kitchen table, her thoughts racing. She hadn't wanted to believe it, but a part of her knew that this opportunity was something she couldn't pass up. It wasn't just a job. It was a chance for her to finally give Ethan the life he deserved. A chance for her to prove to herself that she was capable of more than just surviving. But at the same time, she was scared. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? Her mind kept returning to those questions, spinning in circles. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Alex. "Hey Jessica, I wanted to check in with you about the full-time offer. I know it's a lot to think about, but I really believe you're the right person for this role. No pressure, Just wanted to let you know I'm here, if you have any questions or need any more information." Jessica stared at the screen, the weight of the decision heavy in her chest. She had already been thinking about the offer all night, and now, his message seemed to nudge her in the direction she knew she had to go. She typed back, her fingers shaking slightly. "I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm ready. I want to take the position." Almost instantly, Alex replied. "I'm so glad to hear that. We're going to do great things together, Jessica. I believe in you." His words gave her the reassurance she needed. As she hit send, a wave of relief washed over her. She had made the right choice. The next morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just living day to day, worrying about what came next. She had a plan now, and for the first time in years, it felt like her life was finally taking shape. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Jessica threw herself into her work at Bright Futures, diving into projects, collaborating with the team, and taking on more responsibility than ever before. It was hard, but she loved it. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in a long time. And through it all, Alex was there, offering guidance, support, and a steady presence that helped her stay grounded. The more time she spent with him, the more she realized how much she had grown to respect him, not just as a boss, but as a person. He was everything she admired in someone: kind, driven, compassionate, and always willing to lend a hand. And as they worked together, she began to notice the way he looked at her. There was something different in his gaze, something that made her heart beat a little faster every time their eyes met. It wasn't just professional anymore. She tried to push those feelings aside, reminding herself that she had a job to focus on and a future to build. But the connection between them was undeniable. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Alex asked her to stay back for a moment. "I know it's been a busy week," he said, his voice low, "but I wanted to talk to you about something." Jessica raised an eyebrow, curious. "What's up?" she asked. Alex paused for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of everything you've done here at Bright Futures. You've really made an impact, Jessica. Not just in the work you've done, but in the way you've become a part of the team." Jessica felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. "Thanks, Alex," she said softly. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance." Alex smiled, but there was a hint of something more in his eyes. "Well," he said, stepping closer, "I want to tell you something. Something I haven't said before. I think you're incredible. I've seen so much strength in you. And I don't just mean at work, I mean in life." Jessica's heart skipped a beat. She had always known there was something between them, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel real. She opened her mouth to respond, but Alex took another step closer, gently taking her hand in his. "Jessica," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I know this might be unexpected, but I can't help how I feel. I've grown to care about you, more than just as a colleague. I think I've been feeling this for a while now, and I just wanted to be honest with you." The room seemed to fall silent as Jessica stood there, her mind spinning. Was this really happening? Did he feel the same way she did? She looked into his eyes, searching for the truth, and saw nothing but sincerity. "Alex, she began, her voice trembling slightly. Before she could finish her sentence, Alex leaned forward, closing the gap between them. He kissed her softly, and for a moment, everything else faded away. It wasn't just a kiss. It was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had expected, but both of them had secretly hoped for. When they pulled away, Jessica's heart was racing, and Alex smiled gently. "I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you," he said, his voice soft and steady. "I think we have something special here, Jessica, and I don't want to waste it." As the days went by, Jessica found herself caught between the excitement of the new opportunity she had at Bright Futures and the growing feelings she had for Alex. It was a whirlwind. She had always kept her emotions in check, especially after everything she had gone through, but now things felt different. There was a lightness in her step that she hadn't felt in years, but also a vulnerability she wasn't sure how to navigate. The more she worked with Alex, the more she realized how much she admired him, not just for his professional accomplishments, but for the person he was: kind, patient, and deeply committed to helping others. His actions spoke louder than his words, and it was that authenticity that drew her in. Yet, despite how well things were going at work, Jessica couldn't help but worry. She had never been one to let herself get too attached to anyone. She had learned the hard way that getting close to someone could leave you exposed, vulnerable to disappointment. But this was different, wasn't it? Alex had always respected her, even before they shared a kiss. He never saw her as just a struggling single mom, but as someone with potential, someone worthy of more than just a paycheck. Still, the doubts lingered. What if it didn't work out? What if they started this relationship, and everything at work became complicated? She didn't want to lose her professional reputation, and she certainly didn't want to risk Ethan seeing her getting hurt. As the weeks passed, Jessica and Alex continued to work closely together, and their connection deepened. They spent long hours together in meetings, brainstorming ideas for new initiatives, and making sure Bright Futures continued to grow. Outside of work, they'd have dinners together, sometimes with the team, sometimes just the two of them. There was always a comfort in his presence, a sense of calm she hadn't expected. She was starting to realize that the fear she had been holding on to wasn't just about the risks of a relationship, it was about the fear of letting go of the control she had fought so hard to maintain. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Alex invited Jessica out for a walk in the park. The evening air was cool, and the city lights twinkled in the distance. It was a peaceful moment, one where she could let her guard down, even just a little. They walked in silence for a few minutes before Alex spoke up. "Jessica," he began, his voice steady but warm. "I know things have been moving fast, and I don't want to rush you into anything. But I can't keep pretending that I don't care about you. I've been thinking about us a lot lately, and I want you to know that I'm here, not just as your boss, but as someone who really wants to be with you, if you're ready for that." Jessica's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't like her to let her emotions run wild, but the way Alex was looking at her, with such sincerity and warmth, made it impossible to deny what had been building between them. She stopped walking for a moment, taking in his words. "Alex, I've been scared," she admitted, her voice soft. "I've never been good at letting my guard down, and I didn't want to risk ruining everything. But I also know that what we have feels real, and I don't want to lose that either." Alex smiled, stepping closer to her. "You don't have to be scared, Jessica. I'm not going anywhere. We'll take this at your pace, no pressure. I just wanted you to know where I stand, that's all." In that moment, Jessica realized that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders alone anymore. She didn't have to be afraid of the unknown. For the first time, she felt like she had someone by her side, someone who would be there through the ups and downs. They stood there for a moment, their hands brushing against each other, before Jessica finally took the leap. She reached for his hand and smiled up at him. "Let's take it slow," she said, "but I want to see where this goes." Alex's face lit up, and he gently squeezed her hand. "I promise you, Jessica, it's going to be worth it." The weeks that followed were filled with more shared moments, more quiet walks, and more late-night talks. They didn't rush anything, but they also didn't hold back. Their connection deepened, and with each passing day, Jessica felt more and more at home in her new life. She wasn't just the single mom who struggled to make ends meet anymore. She was someone who had a future, a bright future, full of promise and possibility. And as her relationship with Alex grew, so did her confidence. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Life was never perfect, and nothing was guaranteed. But for the first time in a long time, Jessica felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Surrounded by the people who cared about her. And most importantly, with a future she could finally look forward to. Ethan had noticed the change in her too. He saw her smiling more, talking about her work with excitement, and even talking about Alex with a softness in her voice that he hadn't heard before. One evening, as they sat together on the couch watching TV, Ethan turned to her and asked, "Mom, are you happy?" Jessica smiled, her heart full. "Yes, Ethan," she said softly. "I really am." And in that moment, she knew that no matter what happened next, she had everything she needed to be happy. Love, family, and a future full of hope. As Jessica continued to settle into her new role at Bright Futures, life felt like it was finally beginning to make sense. She was thriving at work, growing more confident each day, and building a future she had once only dreamed of. But even with everything falling into place, the nagging doubt about her relationship with Alex still lingered in the back of her mind. She had been hesitant at first, unsure of how to navigate the complexities of mixing business and personal life. But as time went on, it became clear that what she and Alex had was real. It was more than just a fleeting attraction or a workplace romance. It was something deep, something that had the potential to last. Their relationship had grown steadily, with each shared moment building a stronger foundation. They had taken their time, moving at a pace that felt comfortable for both of them. And as they did, they learned more about each other's hopes, dreams, and fears. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Alex invited Jessica over to his apartment for dinner. She had been looking forward to it all day, excited to spend some quiet time together away from the office. As she arrived, Alex greeted her with a warm smile, and the two of them spent the evening cooking together, sharing laughs and stories. It was the kind of evening that felt easy, effortless, as though they had known each other for much longer than they actually had. As they sat down to eat, Jessica couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment wash over her. For the first time in years, she felt at peace, surrounded by love and support, not just from Alex, but from herself as well. She had come a long way from the woman who was once consumed by fear and uncertainty. "You know," Alex said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking a lot lately." Jessica looked up from her plate, intrigued. "About what?" she asked, her voice soft. Alex leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "About us," he said. "I know things have been moving fast, and I don't want to rush anything, but I just feel like we're building something really special here." Jessica's heart skipped a beat. She had been thinking the same thing, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel all the more real. She set down her fork, looking at him with a mixture of love and vulnerability. "I feel the same way," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been scared, but I don't want to hold back anymore. I want this. I want us." Alex smiled, his eyes softening as he reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "I'm glad to hear that, Jessica," he said, his voice warm. "Because I'm all in. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." They sat there for a moment, just holding hands, the world outside fading away. Jessica realized that for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to embrace her happiness. She had found something that felt real, something that wasn't based on fear or doubt, but on trust and love. And it wasn't just about her and Alex, it was about the life they could build together, a future that was no longer defined by their pasts, but by the possibilities ahead. As the evening wore on, they talked more about their plans for the future, about the life they wanted to create. Jessica couldn't believe how much had changed in such a short amount of time. She had gone from a woman just trying to survive to someone with a real future, filled with hope and possibility. The next few months were filled with more milestones, both in Jessica's personal life and at work. Her role at Bright Futures continued to grow, and she became an even more integral part of the team, taking on new projects and responsibilities. But the most important change was in her heart. She no longer felt like she had to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Alex by her side, supporting her every step of the way. And she had a family in the team at Bright Futures who cared about her and believed in her. One evening, as Jessica and Alex sat together in his living room, he turned to her, his expression serious but filled with affection. "Jessica," he began, "I've been thinking about something. We've been through a lot together already, and I feel like we're ready for the next step." Jessica raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you mean?" she asked. Alex took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "I want to make this official," he said, his voice steady. "I want to marry you, Jessica. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Jessica's heart raced, and for a moment, she couldn't find the words. She had never expected this moment to come so soon, but as she looked at Alex, she knew without a doubt that this was exactly what she wanted. "Yes," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "Yes, I want that too." Alex smiled, relief and joy flooding his face. "I've never been more sure of anything," he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. In that moment, Jessica knew that no matter what the future held, she had found the love, the family, and the happiness she had always dreamed of. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way, building a life full of love, hope, and endless possibilities. As the days passed after their engagement, Jessica and Alex found themselves in a whirlwind of planning and excitement. The thought of building a life together, a future filled with love and possibility, seemed to make everything else in the world fade into the background. They decided to keep the wedding small and intimate, just close friends and family, but it felt monumental to both of them. Jessica had never imagined a future like this one, where she didn't have to struggle, one where she could rely on the support of someone who truly cared for her. She had spent so many years alone, trying to make ends meet, trying to be everything for Ethan, that she had forgotten what it felt like to just times be asterisk. But now, with Alex by her side, she was starting to remember. The weeks leading up to the wedding were busy but exciting. Jessica continued to thrive at work, taking on new responsibilities and helping the team at Bright Futures push forward with new initiatives. It felt amazing to be doing something that mattered, something that made a real difference in people's lives. But even amidst all the work, Jessica always made time for Alex and their growing connection. They had moments of calm, just the two of them, where they could relax, talk, and dream about their future. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, their conversation turned to their future together, and Jessica couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. "I still can't believe how everything has changed so fast," she said, looking at Alex, her voice filled with wonder. "It feels like just yesterday. I was struggling to make rent and barely keeping my head above water." Alex smiled softly, reaching for her hand. "I think that's the beauty of life, Jessica," he said gently. "You never know where it's going to take you, but sometimes you have to trust the journey and believe that it's all leading you to exactly where you need to be." Jessica nodded, her heart full. She never would have believed that her life could change this way, but it had. And it wasn't just the career and the stability, it was Alex. It was the love they shared, the connection that went beyond anything she had ever known. It felt like home. "I used to think I had to do everything on my own," she continued, her voice quiet but confident. "But now, with you, I feel like I can breathe. I can imagine a future without constantly being afraid of what's next." Alex's expression softened, and he leaned in to kiss her forehead. "You never have to be afraid again, Jessica," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore. I'm here. We're in this together." The next few weeks seemed to fly by as the wedding day grew closer. Jessica focused on the details, picking out her dress, finalizing the guest list, and getting everything organized. The stress was there, of course, but it was the kind of stress that felt exciting, the kind that comes with a big life change. And the best part was that she wasn't doing it alone. Alex was right there with her, every step of the way. On the day of the wedding, Jessica stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection in disbelief. She had always imagined this moment, but she never thought it would actually happen. She was about to marry the man she loved, the man who had supported her and believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. And most importantly, she was marrying someone who loved her for who she was, not just for what she could give. The wedding ceremony itself was beautiful, simple but full of meaning. Surrounded by their closest friends and family, they exchanged vows, promising to stand by each other through the good times and the bad, to love and support each other no matter what life threw their way. And when the ceremony was over, when they were finally pronounced husband and wife, Jessica felt a wave of joy and contentment wash over her. She had found the love she had been searching for all along. She had found her home. As they walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, Jessica couldn't help but glance over at Alex. His smile was radiant, and she knew that they had both made the right choice. Together, they would build a life filled with love, laughter, and all the things they had always dreamed of. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Jessica felt ready to face whatever came next. With Alex by her side, she knew she could handle anything. They didn't know what the future would bring, but they knew they would face it together, as a team, and that was all that mattered. The weeks following their wedding were filled with joy and new beginnings. Jessica and Alex settled into their new life together, blending their personal and professional lives in a way that felt seamless. Jessica continued to thrive at Bright Futures, her role evolving as she took on more leadership responsibilities, but now with the added comfort of knowing that she had a supportive partner by her side. Every day felt like a new chapter, and the challenges she had once faced on her own no longer seemed so daunting. They made time for each other, even amidst their busy schedules. Their evenings were often spent at home, cooking dinner together, talking about their day, and dreaming about their future. There was a comfort in their routine, a quiet love that grew stronger with each passing day. For Jessica, It was a reminder of just how far she had come. She had once been lost in a cycle of worry and uncertainty, but now, with Alex's love and unwavering support, she felt like she had found her place in the world. She had found peace, not just in her work, but in her heart. As the months passed, they talked more about the future, about the family they wanted to build, the impact they hoped to have on the world, and the dreams they wanted to make a reality. It was during one of these conversations that Jessica realized something profound. She was no longer just working for survival. She was working for a purpose. Her role at Bright Futures had always been meaningful, but now it felt like a mission, one that she could share with Alex, building something bigger than themselves. It was a life they were creating together. One evening, as they sat together on their balcony, watching the sunset, Alex turned to Jessica with a smile. "I was thinking," he began, "about how much we've been able to accomplish together in such a short time. I know we've had our challenges, but I feel like we're on the right path." Jessica smiled back, taking his hand in hers. "I feel the same way. I never imagined that I would have a life like this one that feels so full, so complete." Alex nodded, his eyes softening as he looked at her. "It's amazing what happens when you stop surviving and start living." Jessica's heart swelled with emotion. Those words resonated deeply with her. She had spent so many years just trying to get by, afraid to truly live. But now, she was living. She was thriving. And it wasn't just because of the job, or the stability, or the love she had found in Alex. It was because she had finally allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something more, in herself, and that was everything. As they sat there, the cool breeze brushing against their skin, Jessica realized that her journey had come full circle. She had gone from a woman struggling to make ends meet, to someone with a future full of promise and love. And it wasn't just the career or the success that mattered. It was the people she had in her life, the family she had built with Alex, the support of her team at Bright Futures, and the love they all shared. She no longer felt alone. She was home. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Jessica knew that no matter what the future held, she and Alex would face it together, hand in hand. There was nothing they couldn't overcome as long as they had each other. With the life they had built, with the love they shared, Jessica finally understood what it meant to truly live. And she couldn't wait to see what the future would bring. The adventure was just beginning. Discover the inspiring journey of a single mother who, after years of struggle, finds herself on the path to success and love, all thanks to a chance encounter with a millionaire. This is one of the most heartwarming millionaire stories, times you'll hear, filled with overcoming challenges, self-discovery, and the power of kindness. As Jessica navigates through life's obstacles, she discovers that love and success are closer than she ever imagined. From struggling to make ends meet to finding herself in the arms of a compassionate and successful man, Jessica's life is about to change in ways she never dreamed possible. These millionaire stories remind us that life can take unexpected turns, and sometimes, the best things come when we least expect them. Follow Jessica's journey as she faces her fears, embraces love, and builds a future with someone who believes in her, showing that sometimes the most beautiful transformations come through the most unexpected encounters. In this millionaire story witness how a simple act of kindness can spark the beginning of a life-changing romance and a bright future. This is not just a love story, but a testament to the power of hope, perseverance, and the belief that anything is possible when we dare to trust in love. With every twist and turn, Jessica discovers that even in the most challenging times, happiness can find its way to those who remain open to it, and her millionaire story is one of the most inspiring you will ever hear.